last year, the 49ers were littered with injuries all throughout their roster and made it very difficult for them to function as a team and do what Shanahan coached them up to do throughout the offseason. And this is a team that really depends on their coaching staff to elevate them beyond just the players on the field. And after losing Dre Greenlaw and Deebo Samuel, it's difficult to have optimism about this team. But if you ask me, the number one thing 49ers fans should be hanging their hat on heading into this year is that this team will be healthy. The guys that are going to be practicing during the offseason are going to be the same guys that are playing throughout the season. And that should be enough for this team to be competitive. It starts with a guy like Brock Purdy, who isn't the most talented guy on earth. Now he's getting paid a lot of money, but he operates the offense and he operates it well. That's all Shanahan really needs. He needs a quarterback that could go out there and operate, play on script, and do what needs to be done. He doesn't need to be Patrick Mahomes making these sidearm passes and doing all that stuff. He just needs a good, capable quarterback that understands the offense. And that's exactly what Brock Purdy is. It also helps that he has a receiver core that is going to know how to run this system, right? This is an offense that is all about technical route runners in the receiver room. And you look at this trio, it is a very nuanced route running crew. You have Brandon Ayuk, you have Jawan Jennings, and you have Ricky Pearsall. All of those guys are good route runners that are also very smart. You could give them a lot of option routes, and they'll always be on the same page as Brock Purdy. That's something that will allow this offense to operate well. Even though they don't have someone that could play after the catch like Deebo Samuel, they're still going to be very, very strong in terms of down-to-down passing. It also helps when they have their little game breaker in George Kittle, who is one of the best tight ends in the NFL. But he isn't this overly nuanced route runner. He does it more with his physical ability. And that also stays true when it comes to him as a blocker. He is going to physically dominate the defense that he's facing off against. And you could see the 49ers lean on him as a blocker a lot. It's a very outside zone heavy scheme, which is very good because you have a talented group of running backs. Christian McCaffrey is, of course, very, very good, has great vision, very elusive. Now, personally, I am worried about him coming off injury. I don't think he's going to have this great year, but they have guys like Isaac Guerendo. They have guys like Jordan James in the backfield behind Christian McCaffrey that should allow this team to perform at a high level, even if Christian McCaffrey isn't healthy. They are going to depend on the running back to make cuts, make the right reads. That's what outside zone is all about. That's also really nice because not only are you able to run behind George Kittle, who's a great blocker, you're able to really lean on Trent Williams to pave the way for you. And Dominic Puny is a very good guard, but the issue with this offensive line is you really just have those two guys, and then everyone else isn't someone that you want to see starting on your offensive line. That's the reality here. But again, outside zone kind of takes the linemen out of it. They really just have to get in guys' way. They don't have to be dominant, people movers. They just have to get in the way of linebackers and defensive linemen. But if they are able to really dominate and push guys to the ground like Trent Williams is, that makes a big difference. But this is a run scheme that's more about the play of the running backs. That's why if Christian McCaffrey is fully healthy, huge for this team, but that's very unlikely. They're likely relying on Isaac Guerendo. They're very likely to be relying on guys like Jordan James. Will they still be a good offensive unit if McCaffrey doesn't play? That's the big question. But I think this passing game should be very effective, right? They have 3 wide receivers that are perfect for the Shanahan kind of offense, right? The passing concepts he draws up. All of them are about exploiting opposing defenders' leverage. These are 3 smart receivers that are very nuanced route runners. Kyle Shanahan knows how to get the most out of those guys. Now, they won't be the most productive offense on earth, which is why we're going to see them rely more on the defensive unit. You got to keep in mind, this is a team that spent its first 5 picks on the defensive side of the ball. It's very clear the identity that this team is going for. They are searching to be a defensive football team, and that starts with Robert Saleh and what he could do with this roster. Robert Saleh is going to ask this team to run a lot of match quarters. That is a defensive coverage where the secondary is going to have to react to what the offense is doing. If the offense has their number 2 receiver on one side going out, the defense is going to run a completely different coverage than if the number 2 receiver is breaking inwards. And there's so many things like that completely change how the defense is going to operate from play to play. That's the beauty of this defense. That's the beauty of Robert Saleh. He's able to coach his guys up perfectly to understand all the rules in such a complex defense. It's also worth mentioning, Robert Saleh isn't going to ask his guys to blitz much. He's just going to simply say, my front 4, you got to get home because this complex coverage I'm trying to run needs everyone else to be focusing on their job in coverage. We can't afford to have guys blitzing. And when you don't coach that up well, and the players don't know the coverage that they have to be running, and the defensive linemen can't consistently win their matchups, things can look very bad. But Robert Saleh is great at coaching his guys up to do it. And he has some talent here that is going to excel in a role like that. You look at this defensive line. This is where they spent 3 of their first 5 picks in this draft. And I really like the 3 that they drafted. Mykel Williams is a stud. I'm such a big Mykel Williams fan. He is so powerful, so strong. And then Alfred Collins was a nice addition from Texas. A very strong interior guy there. They also have CJ West, who currently isn't listed as a starter for the team, but he is someone that can really impress for them. And then complementary to Mykel Williams, or I guess a lot of people would say Mykel Williams is the complementary piece to him. It doesn't really matter. Both of them are going to be truly outstanding. You have Nick Bosa, who has been one of the best edge rushers in all of football for the past half a decade, and that's not going to slow down. Since day one, Nick Bosa has been a true force, and I expect that to be the same exact thing here. Him and Mykel Williams are going to do damage to opposing quarterbacks all season long. They don't need help from blitzing linebackers much, and that allows you to trust them in a difficult defensive scheme where they're not going to be getting that type of help. Speaking of the blitzing linebackers, if they were to send guys, they have that ability. D. Winters is a very versatile piece who could do a lot of different things for the 49ers. And then Fred Warner has been the best linebacker in football for a very, very long time. He's the only guy in the league that can play coverage at an elite level while also being an elite run defender. You ask him to cover a certain guy in man-to-man, he's never going to struggle. You ask him to fit the run in a certain way against a very tough offensive lineman, he's going to hold his ground and he's going to do his job. He's one of the few guys you could ask to do truly anything on the defensive side of the ball, and he will excel. In the safety room, you have Jair Brown, who's a true free safety, very rangy guy, someone you trust a lot in coverage. And then you have Malik Mustafa, a young player that can fit the run well, truly play that box safety role. I don't love the corner room, but they're young. I trust Saleh to really coach them up to operate the scheme at a high level. This should be a fun team that relies heavily on the defensive side of the ball, but will still be very good on the offensive end because of the coaching of Kyle Shanahan. It's all about how the players are coached up, and it's all about whether or not the players can truly operate the scheme at the level that they need to on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. The X's and O's are going to win them games. It's just about whether or not the players can excel in those roles. I'm going to look at the schedule and see if that is the case for this team. 49ers find themselves in a pretty lucky spot because the NFC West generally has a very easy schedule, and it's just a question of will you get upset much. Kyle Shanahan's been a head coach for coming up on a decade. I don't expect him to get upset an overwhelming amount, especially understanding all the commentary currently around this team after losing all the players that they lost over the offseason. There's all this talk about, is the window closed? Is the window closed? Is the window closed? I think they're going to do everything in their power to make the season look as good as possible, and because of that, I don't think they're going to get upset an overwhelming amount. I've been winning 4 straight. They understand what is at stake for this season, and they're going to do, like I said, everything to prevent the reputation from really falling down a cliff, right? So I think the 49ers win 4 straight. It's going to be tough to win in Seattle, their season opener. That's going to be really tough. That's a hostile environment, but I think San Fran can do it, and the Saints aren't overly good. The Cardinals can be very worrying, but I think the 49ers have what they need to be able to go toe-to-toe with them. And then the Jaguars, they don't worry me an overwhelming amount. They could really catch you off guard if you underestimate them, but I think this is a game where Trevor Lawrence might really not do well. Then the Rams and Buccaneers, those are two really tough teams. Playing them on the road, I get it that they have some momentum at this point, but I'm still gonna take the Rams and Bucs in these two games. You're coming off 4 straight wins, but those are two really tough teams to play against at their home stadium. I'm sorry, I can't really choose things to go your way there. Then week 7 against the Falcons, I have them bouncing back, winning at home. The Texans can be a tough opponent, but I think the 49ers are going to do a good job preventing the defensive line from really taking over the game, get the ball out quick. Low-scoring affair here, two very defensive teams, but I think I'm going to take the 49ers here, even though they're on the road, even though they have the worst quarterback. Like I said, I think it's going to come down to defense, and I think the 49ers are just going to hold up a little bit better. And you got to keep in mind, the Texans, their offensive line's really, really weak. I like this San Fran defensive line. I think they're able to take advantage of that. Then the Giants, I just don't think they're an overly good team, but with all the quarterback stuff that's going to be going on throughout the year, this might be a big Jameis Winston game. They're going to throw a lot of curveballs at you. When Robert Saleh doesn't have film to really analyze and kind of gets caught off guard by what this offense's identity ends up being, because it's going to change repeatedly throughout the season, I think that they lose this one. Now, I do have the 49ers getting their revenge on the Rams now that the Rams are coming to them, playing in their home stadium. I think that the 49ers win this one, but then they lose on the road playing against Arizona. Like I said, I think that they're a tough team. You don't have home field advantage here. I think they split a lot of these series. Now, Carolina, I just have Carolina starting to heat up around this point in the season, trying to play for something, trying to play. Similarly to the 49ers, they're playing for something here. They need to prove that the Bryce Young era is going well, and they want to end things well later in the year. This is going to be a great way to do that, upsetting San Fran in their home turf. But I don't think they get upset twice in a row. I think that the 49ers are definitely going to beat the Browns. Then I think the 49ers are going to take out the trash with the Titans, with the Colts. And yeah, I think the Bears are good, but San Fran knows what they're doing, man. And I think this is where they're going to really work to make a push. Coming off 3 straight wins, I think they're going to go ahead and take another. But then I think they lose in Week 18. Right now, they're going to be fighting for seeding. But I think they kind of underestimate Seattle because in my schedule and schedule predictions, I have Seattle pretty much out of it at this point. And I think San Fran gets caught a little bit off guard there, trying to coast off into the playoffs. So that is how I have the season playing out for the 49ers. Like I said, good team. Like, I like what's going on there. I don't think the talent is overwhelming, but I think they're really well coached, and that's what this is going to come down to. They're a well-coached football team. How well can the players take advantage of the schemes that are put in front of them? How much can the X's and O's translate to the field? That's what it's going to be about for this team. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.